Hey, long time no see, YouTube. I am finally back, and my Tomb Raider review for Tomb Raider 3 is finally here. This was a really long game. It took me forever to beat. For those new around here, pretty much how I do my reviews is I'm going to tell you what I liked about the game first, and I'm going to tell you what I didn't like about the game the next half of the video. There is no meat riding nostalgia here. My reviews for Tomb Raider are very controversial. I definitely say an unpopular opinion or things that are not widely said. But anyways, let's get into some Tomb Raider. This video will have spoilers, by the way. And just so you guys know, I played this on PC. And I changed the resolution midway into the game, so some clips might look better than others. Now, I will say out of all the Tomb Raider games I played so far that are the classics, Tomb Raider 3 definitely felt like the biggest adventure and the longest journey out of all the games I played thus far, including those in the Legend timeline too. During my time playing this game, on contrary to what you guys may think I feel about the game, I actually really like some of those levels. I gotta say, out of all the locations that you can go to, Antarctica was definitely my favorite location that you can travel to. The Antarctica levels just offered so much different elements of gameplay that you were doing. Navigating yourself through the icy terrain, avoiding that cold water so you don't die to the new hyperthermia mechanic. Driving the motorboat with actual decent controls. The RX mines, driving the mine carts, dodging terrain, breaking the mine cart so you don't flip over because you were driving too fast. Underlay, smacking the switches to change your paths. One thing I really like about the classic Tomb Raider series is they always include some type of horror element in the games. In the Antarctica level, when you're in that room and the lights are flickering, and all of a sudden you see that zombie-like thing that's infected with that Resident Evil T virus. It was creepy and it caught me off guard, and it was nice foreshadowing for enemies that you're gonna see in the future. Honestly, I have no idea for the lore why they were there like that and affected with something. Maybe you guys can tell me.
Oh, great heavens!
Then there was fighting the tyrant-like enemies in the dark. Another level I really liked was the Nevada Correctional Facility. Now, I don't know how we even got here. I'm pretty sure there wasn't a cutscene leading to why we were there. But I like it because all your weapons are stripped, and you have to navigate yourself through the security compound, and you run into guards that have asbatons, and they have guns too sometimes. So you're like, how am I supposed to neutralize these guards? And you discover that you can actually open inmate cells, and the inmates will find the guards, and they'll get that guard handled. Over here, gang, he's right here. Hey, gang, right here. Get him. Get him. Hey, gang. I thought that was very creative, even though every Tomb Raider game has had a part where you lost your weapons, and you had to go back and find them. For the classics, that is. Another thing Tomb Raider improves itself on is the boss fights. Now, the boss fights aren't improved dramatically, but they definitely articulate them more better. Like the boss in the London level, where you actually pretty much just platform yourself to the top and electrocute Natla Jr. using a switch. The other bosses are pretty much just run and gun. They do have terrain hazards. The bosses are improved ever so slightly, but I'll consider it an improvement. Another aspect of the game that I really like are the different outfits that you wear for the locations that you go to in the game. We're in London with that all-black leather or spandex fit, Black Force activities on deck. Let me get that and fall the stone off you right now outfit. We got the bomber jacket, the white tank top, and the green shorts. You gotta stay fresh to death. Even the enemies in this game are fresh. One of the most popular traps in Tomb Raider 2 and 1 were the rolling rocks. Tomb Raider 3 had a few of those traps, but one thing I like is they actually changed it up a bit, and the changes caught me lacking, I can't lie. Without a doubt, Tomb Raider 3 was definitely the hardest Tomb Raider I played so far. The closer I got to the end of the game, the more I was wondering, would I even have enough health packs and ammo to kill the final boss or go through the rest of the game? There were a lot of moments where I only had like one small health pack and one big pack, and then that turned into none. I like when games give you limited resources like that because it makes you think twice about what you're about to do, and it makes you selective over your resources. At the same time, I felt like Tomb Raider 2 definitely gave out more ammo when you killed enemies. Opposed to Tomb Raider 3, I feel like a lot of the enemies didn't drop ammo. At the same time, I felt like I found more ammo in Tomb Raider 2. In Tomb Raider 3, I never really had ammo like that because the game kept giving me Uzi ammos when I did not have an Uzi at the time. I used the Desert Eagle a lot. I did find a lot of Desert Eagle ammo, but I used that gun heavy, and then I used the MP5 a lot, and then the basic pistol a lot too. Y'all know Lara's pistols are called Bonnie and Clyde because they always down the ride, right? Having the ability to choose what location you want to go to next was a huge plus too. One thing I really liked about this game is the aesthetics of it too. Some of these places that you visit just look so charming. Like, I really like the 90s aesthetics that these games have, especially upscaled too. How simple the graphics and textures can be, but then how precise they can be to try to paint the best visuals that you can see. Some of these environments are so charming, like they can be screensavers for your phones and you'll get hit by a wave of nostalgia. I definitely see the newer games taking inspiration from these older locations that you go through. You know, analyzing the environment and figuring out how you need to navigate yourself through the level is what the fan base really likes. As you keep progressing through the game, you build intuition, and this intuition helps you approach new areas of the game to puzzle yourself through. If you ever get stumped in this game and you have to figure out what you need to do to progress through the level, once you figure it out, if it's in a reasonable amount of time, you begin to appreciate the level design on how all the paths converge and how you have to activate certain items to do a certain thing to help you traverse through the level. Without a doubt, I think Tomb Raider 3 has the best articulated levels out of all the classics I played so far. As far as the combat goes, the combat's the same as it was in Tomb Raider 2, minus that they took out the assault rifle and replaced it with the MP5, and we have a Desert Eagle. And I really like the Desert Eagle because the way Lara holds it by default and the way she holds it when she actually shoots it really looks like you're about to lay someone out with that Magnum. The enemy variability in this game is actually really good. I think it has the most variety between the classics so far. Also, you can pull off some stylish stuff during the combat in this game. Tomb Raider 3 definitely felt more responsive to my inputs than Tomb Raider 1 and 2. So I started playing Tomb Raider 3 right after I finished Tomb Raider 2, and I was making my video for that. And I noticed in the game that they added sprinting. You can hang from the ceiling and climb like some monkey bars. And you can also crawl on command. They definitely utilize those mechanics in the levels. So it's good that they add new mechanics and they actually use them. Don't add stuff if you're not going to use it. Well, that concludes everything I liked about the game. Now it's time to go over to what I don't like. Now, you already know I got sauce in this pot, and we gotta get it cooking. The one thing I really dislike about the classic Tomb Raiders, especially in 3, is how long it takes you to figure out where to go and to do this stuff. It's like the game's always giving you something to look for. Now, this usually comes in the form of you finding the key, finding the path that you missed, and turning on stuff usually by a lever. But the bulk of this is literally you just trying to figure out where to go. Now I get a few people in the comments saying, what's wrong with taking so long to beat a game? And there's nothing wrong with taking a long time to beat a game, but when all you're doing is searching around to figure out where to go and no other element of gameplay is happening, let me make this abundantly clear. It's fucking boring. It's crazy because there's fans of Tomb Raider who are passionate about the series that have said they've been stuck in parts for days and they're passionate about the series. You hear a lot of people praising the classic games and stuff, but you don't hear about the other side. There's a lot of people who said they played these games and they just get stuck and stop playing them. Now, I never really said this is the reason why it takes forever to figure out where to go. But I remember someone in one of my videos said, Tomb Raider has a texture problem. And they're right, it does. Let me ask you guys something. Does this block look hardly any different than any of the other blocks around it? You can barely see that gash that's in the block. Do these fences look interactable and climbable to you? They seem to blend in right within the level. They're flat, they don't look 3D, and they're dark. Now you're telling me these fences aren't climbable? Do these vines look climbable? Because to me, they blend right in on that rock, and they look flat. They don't look like anything you can interact with. Does this plane wing really look climbable to you guys? This certainly doesn't look climbable. On the Pacific Island levels, there's like no clear indicator to shoot at this random wall right here. Before I even blew the wall up, you look at the walls and you can see there's like no clear indicator to do that. And as you can see, I wander around and I think you're supposed to go where the waterfall is going, and I die for it.
Fantastic!
It doesn't even look like you can climb in this direction. In the RX Mines level, you can see the little entryway over here, which made me think this area could be climbable, but does this even look like a ledge? Not at all. It doesn't even look like a ledge froze over with ice. So we can see that Tomb Raider 3 definitely has texture problems. The problem with this is if you run into a texture and you don't know it's interactable, you end up backtracking the whole level, doing all the searching around, wasting time. The problem with doing all that searching is it makes the game's pacing really slow and redundant and boring. And sometimes with this game, you just miss stuff. For example, take this Nevada level and you can see I run through this area and then I make my way to the water tower and I'm inside the water tower and you can hang on this ledge and I try to move to the left even though the textures don't look like you can because it's happened before, but you actually can't move to the left. So after backtracking and retracing my steps through the whole level, I found out that there's actually an entryway in this cave that you can jump into that I did not see because of the camera angle my first time. When stuff like this happens, it ruins your motivation to keep playing the game when you keep getting stuck. And you have to go back and search the whole level. No one is going to keep lighting flares everywhere in the level, jumping randomly, dangling over ledges to find hidden paths over and over every time they're stuck across the whole level. So when it comes to things that make you wander around for an ungodly amount of time regarding textures, one, the texture should have just been very defined, and another possible solution would have been to put those textures all over the level. They don't necessarily have to take you to something all the time, but now you will know that those textures are interactable. And if you see an item or path there, the player knows they can go there. I really tried to play this game and use no guide, but definitely sometimes I definitely had to look at a guide because I was stuck and searching around for stuff way too long for my liking. When it comes to old survival horror games like Silent Hill, Resident Evil, none of these games have made me search and wander around as much as Tomb Raider. Now, a lot of people always say the classic Tomb Raiders are about exploration, but I think the exploration in these games are pretty weak, mainly because all you're really doing is wandering around trying to figure out where to go. Now, searching around and doing all that does fit the definition of exploration, but when you think on a gaming context, games with good exploration do a variety of different things. They add people to your party. You find weapons. You find documents revealing stuff to the lore. You find secret bosses. You find hidden rooms with enemies. You find more traps. You find different ways to traverse through the level. You find items that let you skip certain parts. You find side quests, and the things that you find when you explore add another layer of gaming elements, making the game more complex. Things could have definitely been added more in the game to give you more of a reason to explore, because you can find some stuff, like you can find some secrets, you can find those couple of little health packs, or maybe you might find a good cache of Desert Eagle ammo, but for the amount of time that you spend looking and wandering around, it doesn't cut it whatsoever. I hardly actively ever looked for secrets. If I thought that there was a path there, I'd check it out to see what's in it, but most of the secrets I found were me literally just trying to figure out where to go. An aspect of the game that I really do not like is the movement. Now, I know in the beginning of the video I said that the movement is improved and the response time to pressing buttons is improved, but that's ever so slightly. The movement physics in this game is one of your greatest enemies, and I've gotten killed by it several times. Movement in these Tomb Raider classic games are below mediocre. Especially for a 3D platformer, it's bad because the game expects you to make these maneuvers when there is no precision to do these type of maneuvers. So you'll see in this clip that there's a trap and it's a grinder wheel and you have to hit 4 switches. It's moving back and forth in the room. For those of you who played Tomb Raider, you know that you can't run and then make sharp turns, and when you turn, it's all slow, even when you sprint. Can't even make sharp turns when you walk or jog. Anyways, you know that when you run to switches in Tomb Raider, that you get close to it because it's not precise enough to get directly in front of it majority of the times, and then you have to take those 2 or 1 extra steps while you're moving extra slow to hit the switch. I can't be doing all that when this wheel wants to run me over. For this trap, you have to stand in very specific spots after you hit the switch and face towards the wall to make sure you don't get hit by the grinder wheel. There's moments in Tomb Raider where you have to be foot-toe precise to maneuver yourself through some of these traps that the game wants you to do, and they're hard because the game's movement physics do not complement what they want you to do. Another area in Tomb Raider 3 that shows bad movement is one of the levels in the Pacific Islands. You drop down a hole, you have to hit some switches in a specific order while the ceiling is coming down with spikes. The room is small and the controls are just so bad that there's no precision to your movement, and it's a bad time. There are moments in this game where I almost died underwater either to hypothermia or running out of air because the movement is just not good enough. The movement can easily be improved by just making it super responsive, like as soon as you press A, you jump, and making yourself turn more faster. There's really no excuse for the movement because there's games that came out before Tomb Raider 3 that are in 3D that don't have the slow, clunky movement physics. And they're platformers too. Another aspect of movement that I disliked in this game were some of the jumps in this game were just straight up fake. Like, how did I not make this jump? Her feet were literally at the edge and her hands were over the ledge ready to grab.
Firmly grasp it!
One thing I can't stand about this series, especially in Tomb Raider 3, are these really awkward jumps. And they keep making you jump from the corner where you're really close to the wall, and it's very easy to bump into the wall or to mess up the course of your jump. Some of these jumps that you have to do make me feel like I'm trying to complete a 12-point turn in a car. Based off all the small maneuvering you have to do on this one square to complete one jump. And you're adjusting yourself with those slow, clunky controls. I'm at this part in the RX Mines level and you're stuck down here and I'm trying to find my way out because you can't leave the same way that you came in. And look at this awkward jump. Who's expecting to complete a jump like that? Now, we gotta talk about a famous jump in the Nevada level. I attempted this jump several times and for whatever reason, it just didn't want to work. And I decided to jump off the platform and go outwards and gain enough aerial mobility to reach the platform. Nobody is thinking about gaining aerial mobility in a game like Tomb Raider, where the controls are mad clunky. I'm honestly surprised that you even gain enough aerial mobility to reach the platform. Now, I had some subscribers in my comments in previous videos tell me that Tomb Raider 3 is very unfair. There was definitely some times where Tomb Raider pulled some dickhead shit. There'll just be traps throughout the levels that kill you, and you'll be like, wow, I really appreciate that after taking a decade of figuring out how to navigate myself here. I played this on PC so I could save whenever I want, so a lot of those things didn't really bother me because I just load my next save. However, in the India levels, I did find those areas where there was quicksand and you had to walk in a specific way to reach your destination before you drown. It felt completely random and unfair. And in the earlier levels too, they were putting snakes right in your path that were like almost unavoidable. Also, there were sections where you would just fall and drop. And it would be at the end of the game too, where I wouldn't have a lot of health, and it would just like make me lose a lot of health out of nowhere. Enemies with guns will be mad annoying in this game because once you kill them, it's like they go into Call of Duty mode and have Last Chance Pro and then shoot you one time and then you just lose health for no reason. And then to avoid that, you have to be behind those enemies, and you usually get behind them by being close to them. And when you're close to them, they be touching on you, and then they make your character do all this crazy stuff, making Lara look like she's doing the jellyfish jam. Another issue I had with this game is when you platform sometimes, the ledge grab is not consistent. Now, this didn't really happen a lot in the game, but on the RX Mines level, this was a very big problem because you need to go down and you can see that there's ledges because there's a gas in the ice. However, you can only grab the ledge at specific areas for some reason. If you drop on the right side of it, she won't grab the ledge, but if you drop on the left side, she'll grab the ledge. I don't understand that. You should be able to grab it wherever you drop. Now let's talk about the vehicles in this game because you drive a couple of vehicles. The ATV was fine. The motorboat was fine. The little submarine that you use underwater to help you propel yourself, that was a bit annoying because they put you in tight areas, and with these clunky controls, you couldn't really do what you needed to do, and you'll be running out of air and you would drown. The canoe was the most horrible vehicle controls, whatever you want to call it, I've ever felt in a video game. It was easier for me to move backwards than it was for me to move forward. Then I'm moving the canoe upstream. That doesn't even make sense. And I drop right here and die. But then how come when I drop over here, I live? Explain that to me.
You don't find that suspicious?
I said the boss fights were improved, but that's literally ever so slightly, like 1%. And that's just because the boss in the London levels had you do platforming and hit a switch to killer, which was different supposed to what you were doing in the previous boss fights for the classic Tomb Raider games. My issue with the boss fights in this game is they have a pretty cool concept and they do very unique things. But the boss fights are pretty much just jump, run, and gun, and the running and jumping is slow, clumpy, and floaty. There have been times where I fell in the areas that actually kill you. In the terrain of the boss den, it's kind of hard to fix the issues with the boss fight considering that the movement physics of this game just aren't it. But even with the current movement physics, I still think there could have been an extra layer of gameplay elements that you did during a boss. Such as a boss could have had multi-phases, and during the second phase, they could have ran away from you and like shot beams at you and forced you to actually crouch and platform and have you chase and pursue them and sprint after them. You could have ended up on a turn and gunned them down or something like that. Alright, we gotta talk about the final boss real quick. One, this thing is definitely based off the alien from The Thing. Two, this boss was mad lame. That one-hit kill, unavoidable, homing blue beam is so lame. I tried everything to avoid this move, and I swear it is unavoidable. The way I beat the boss is, I ran around half the circle and would turn around and spray him up and just rinse and repeat. Running halfway across the boss arena stopped them from using his one-hit kill beam. And even though this game is very flawed, I still think there's a lot of good things this game did, and there's a lot of elements that modern games can take from this game to have better level design. At the same time, people use Tomb Raider as a game series that doesn't hold your hand and is difficult and a very really good game. And at the same time, I feel like a lot of people don't point out the issues that the game really has. If you're wondering where I put Tomb Raider 3 in comparison to Tomb Raider 1 and 2, I definitely like Tomb Raider 3 over 1. But Tomb Raider 2 is better than both of them. In hindsight, I think I might replay Tomb Raider 2. I might stream it, honestly. I want to replay Legend on hard, and I might even play Anniversary again. I definitely want to play my favorite games and give them the same review treatment as I give in these games. But that's all I have to say, so vibe out.